Well, hi everyone. Good morning. My name's Steve Pastor. I'm Director of Sales here at Braze. We're actually just based about 2 blocks away. We're a modern-day marketing cloud, full ESP, and that's designed to use all of your customer data without the requirement to go to engineers every time you want to build a marketing campaign. So I'm joined here by Kimberley Gardiner. Also goes by KG. So I've had the chance to meet with you and chat with you already, but for those in the room, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, first of all, I have a question. So how many of you have shopped at Tractor Supply? Okay. How many of you have heard of Tractor Supply, but you've never shopped there before? Okay, I'm keeping my hand up. That was me before I started at Tractor Supply. So a little bit about my background. I came from about 20 plus years in automotive prior to coming to Tractor about 6 months ago. So I am brand new to the Tractor Supply Company brand. I worked at companies like Toyota, Lexus, Kia, Mitsubishi, most recently Volkswagen to help launch their ID4. I've been on several of these brand innovators fireside chats and talks and things like that, but all about auto. And one of the reasons why I loved auto is because it's complicated, it's interesting. Buying a car is one of the most significant purchases you can make in your life. It really matters. So a lot of people ask me, like, wait a second, a year ago you were there and now you're at Tractor Supply. Why Tractor Supply? One of the things I've learned about myself is that I love change. And I love coming into an organization that's already, like Tractor Supply, doing really well and helping them dial things up a notch. And that's why I love asking people, do you shop there? What do you think about it? Have you heard of it but never shopped at it? Because it's a brand that I think people just really love. And it's a brand that I fell in love with, and that's why I ended up coming here, literally because the CEO, my boss, Hal Lawton, came out to Virginia to meet me, walked a store with me, and I was hooked. So that's a little bit about me.
So moving from auto to retail is a big move. Like, what made you make the switch? What about being in the Tractor Supply store was the hook?
I told the recruiter that contacted me about the opportunity. I said, I've been at Volkswagen for about a year and a half. I've been in auto for a really long time. I am one of those people, I can honestly say, I know buying a car, raise your hand if it's a great experience. Yeah, maybe not so much. It's something we can all relate to, right? There's always going to be, even if you're a negotiator, it's a tough experience to buy a vehicle, especially in the last few years when there's been a lot of dynamics in the industry, for sure, that make it just difficult for consumers to find what they're looking for when they need it at a great price. And so I said, but I love it. I love auto. And the recruiter called and she said, look, just have a conversation with Hal Lawton. He's been in retail a very long time. He's very well respected. He's just a great guy, super smart. And you'll get a flavor for the culture at Tractor Supply. And fast forward, a quick Zoom call, and then he came out, like I said, to a Tractor Supply store near where I was. We walked the store together. It was probably, I don't know, an hour or so. And watching him interact with people around the store, watching customers come up to him and said, oh, you're Tractor Supply, right? Because he has a Tractor Supply logo. And he said, yes, I am, in fact. May I help you find something in the store? Are you enjoying your time here at Tractor Supply? Not once did he ever say, oh, I'm Hal Lawton, I'm the CEO of Tractor Supply. Can I help you? That kind of thing. Never said who he was. Servant leadership, when no one is looking in the back room and he's helping people load up stuff, to being at the front with the cashiers and saying, what are people asking about today? And people just continually saying, it's not even, Tractor Supply. It's like, I love Tractor Supply. And I thought there's something so special, not only about retail where people love going there, and that's their secret sauce, is that in-store experience. But when you have a brand that people are like, Tractor Supply, do you guys sell tractors? What do you do? I'm so curious. And that was me. And I thought there's a reason why this is all happening right now. And interviewing with the company, the culture is phenomenal. It was one of those things where it's like finding a university. You're like, you go in the university, you watch a class, and you're like, this is where I belong. And I think that's pretty cool.
There were some hands that are not familiar with Tractor Supply. Can you give us a little overview on specifically?
Maybe they'll go to a Tractor Supply soon.
Well, that's our hook.
So Tractor Supply is the largest rural lifestyle retailer in the country. About 2,100 now stores, mostly located in areas that are like ex-urban, outside of the city, and very much on the move in terms of growth. It's one that has everything from Carhartt apparel, which a lot of folks can easily relate to and like and buy, to chicken feed, chicken coops, to garden supplies, outdoor power gear, UTVs, all kinds of different things. And a lot of what we sell are what we call queue-based, so things that are going to be essentials for families that are taking care of either their land, their farm animals, or their pets. And we saw a lot of that. So it is, and I'm not saying this just because I'm a CMO and that's my job, but I've been in a lot of stores, right? I love retail that feels like it's more of an experience than it is just I've got to go in and get my stuff. And I promise you, if you go into a Tractor Supply store, you'll feel a little bit of that. And that's what I'm most excited about is how do I take that essence and now sprinkle that around? Much like an auto, how do I take that new car smell, right? Which we all love. You get in a car, oh, your car smells so new, I love it. Like if I could just keep that when you go into the dealership experience and it could all be about the new car smell, then I think we would be in a good spot.
As you transition from auto to retail, what are some of the key learnings that you've had? I assume people in this room at some point will transition from one industry to another. What are some of the key things that you've learned throughout that experience?
Someone once told me that retail is retail. I agree. There's a lot of similarities with auto. If you look at it again from more of what we call tier 3 or a dealership experience, you're looking at very short-term sales cycles, right? How do I get traffic? How do I get customers to close? How do I maintain that loyalty? How do I keep people happy and coming back, et cetera? In auto, it's very similar, obviously, with Tractor Supply, right? We want to attract new customers. We're doing a great job of that. We've got an amazing loyalty base, millions and millions, over 25 million people that are in our Neighbors Club loyalty program. So the scale is different than auto in a lot of different ways, but it's true in terms of the things that matter in automotive are the things that matter in retail for me now. It's just the time frame looks a little bit different in terms of maybe it's 7 days or 14 days or maybe a month that you're thinking about a purchase, which is auto, it's anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months. In the last few years, it's probably been more like a year because it's taken that long for some people to be able to get the car that they're looking for. So the time scale is different, and the relationship that you build is different. And what I found I've been able to bring over from auto into retail now at Tractor Supply is, when we talk about lifetime value of a customer, I'm truly talking about how many, my old world, how many cars are you going to buy over your lifetime between the time that you're probably in your 20s until you're, in these days, your 70s, maybe even your 80s, and autonomous driving cars, who knows, right? So that's a really long time scale. And building an impression with somebody, building a conversation relationship with somebody in auto is super, super important. How do I take some of that now and put that into Tractor Supply? We're so fortunate. We have wonderful customers. We've got 50,000 team members. I can't tell you one of them that I have met that hasn't said the same thing a customer says as I really love working at Tractor Supply. So we've got all of that. So we've got the great foundation for a longer term relationship, but we have to kind of expand that window. We're kind of at 7-day attribution, 14-day attribution. I'm like, can we just go to 30-day attribution? Maybe a little bit further out, because especially with an economy like we're now, people are going to take longer to make a decision. So, and that is the world that I came from in auto, so some of that is similar. And I just think the importance of having that end experience in brick and mortar be amazing is one that I craved. I cannot tell you, and anyone who has known me from the past, I would get up here and talk about, how many of you are excited about getting a new car? Yes. How many of you have cars? Yes. You drive? Yes. How many of you are looking forward to the experience of going to buy that vehicle? And I've been in big rooms, and I don't mean this in a negative way with dealers, but I'm like, dealers, you need to see these hands go up, right? There's not that many of them. If the end experience isn't something people are going to look forward to, they're going to postpone that. They're going to figure out ways to do things otherwise rather than rush to the dealer and test drive that vehicle, even though that's like the most important part. You want to fall in love with your car, you're going to have it. You don't want to drive off the lot and feel like, oh man, what a bummer, I have to spend all this money on this car. You want to feel good about it. It's the same thing in retail now. You want to leave that store and you want to feel good about what you just bought, because your dollars are hard to earn, and right now there's a lot of pressure on wallets. So I think learning both ways, it's like if you can make that end experience great and tell people about it, the one thing I want people to know is please go to a Tractor Supply store. And if you don't have a great experience, come find me. I would say that maybe in auto, but I think everybody would find me and they'd be like, KG, you told me to come find you. What the heck? Come with me to go shop for a car, which I used to have to do. Now I don't have to go with people to Tractor Supply to make sure they have a good experience. I offer with especially my female friend, I'll go with you. Do not go to it by yourself. I'll come with you.
So you mentioned being open and being a necessity for a lot of folks. Obviously with COVID, you weren't there at the time, but that probably changed Tractor Supply quite a bit. Would love to learn a little bit more about how that's altered the way that you go about doing business today.
Well, again, being a demand-driven, needs-based business, you can imagine if you've got horses, you've got cattle, you've got even dog food. These are essential things that you need, especially weather-based needs. So, people say, oh, I know Tractor Supply bought a chicken coop there and some chickens during COVID. You need supplies around that. You can't just leave the chickens and not care for them, especially if it gets cold outside and that kind of thing. So in that sense, we have that traffic that needed to keep coming in, and they needed to rely on us. So what I've learned about the brand is they had to very, very quickly pivot, have curbside, BOPIS, et cetera, right? Be able to deliver to more customers than ever before. They stayed open basically the entire time. But the other thing on the flip side of that changed is a lot more people as they reevaluated their lives, as we all did, right? What's important to you? Where do you want to live? Where can you live now that you might be able to live apart from where your office is? We saw a migration, right? We know that to smaller cities and outside of highly densely populated urban areas. That benefited Tractor Supply for sure, because you have a lot more people that are saying, oh, I've got a backyard. I've got a little more land. And our sweet spot is what we call more hobby farmers and ranchers, so not massive scale, but you've got maybe a quarter acre or anywhere to a few acres kind of thing. And so that group grew a lot, especially with millennials and people that are looking at lifestyle change or life stage changes, getting married, having kids, and figuring out where they want to be. And that, I think, really has stayed with the brand. People ask me, well, now that COVID has sort of subsided and people are kind of coming back to work and kind of maybe moving back to urban centers, has that changed your dynamic? And I would say growth has been with millennial customers over the past year, as well as female, as well as more diverse customers. So we're still seeing those patterns last, I don't even say post-COVID, but whatever phase we're in now of COVID.
Curious how much Yellowstone played a role in that.
All right, this is fun, right? So Yellowstone, how many of you watched Yellowstone? Yes. Love it. Love Yellowstone. 1923, have you guys watched 1923? You have to. It is so good. Helen Mirren is amazing. I mean, Harrison Ford is 80 years old. 80 years old, and that dude has still got it. He's just fantastic. I, confession, had not watched Yellowstone prior to coming to Tractor Supply. Didn't watch it. And also confession time, I'm a CMO, have been for a while now. I don't watch TV. I literally don't have a TV in my house. I know, it sounds kind of crazy. I lived overseas, like when I was a kid in high school in Italy. There was no TV there, so when in prime kind of TV years, I didn't have this great experience like, oh, you come home from school, you want to watch TV. I didn't have TV for a long time, so I don't miss it. That's me. But fast forward to now, I watch content. I've got all kinds of streaming things that I watch. So it's not that I don't watch content, I just don't sit in front of a big screen and, oh yeah, Yellowstone's on Sunday nights kind of thing. So I had to figure out, like, all right, how do I get this? Is it on which streaming service? And what about this? And which season? And I literally could not stop watching it. I watched 1, 2, 3, like, I don't know, it was probably literally staying up till 2 a.m. I felt like that weekend. I'm so hooked. So hooked. Same thing with 1923. I watched that recently. There's a nice parallel. People in my team say, Yellowstone is so much like Tractor Supply, in the sense like it's a great fit for our audience. Not only so people that live the out here lifestyle, we say, but those who want to. Because I would say Tractor Supply, it's not about like living life out here, like you have to be a certain type of person to want to shop there or to watch Yellowstone. What I love about that show is that I think you see what's really resonant with people that just feel like they want to protect land. They want to protect what makes America a little bit more America, I would say, for generations to come. And I know there's some violence and bad language and all the rest of it, but I love that the women in the show are really powerful. I think there's a lot of neat messaging in it, and I just feel like, and again, this is not a commercial for Yellowstone so much as it is it just shows you talk about transitioning and being open to something different. I think there's why it's become so popular, not only in the center of the country, but in the coasts. And now they're expanding to a lot of these franchises because it's tapping into something I think that's true for all of us, no matter what age we are, no matter if you have a little bit of land or if you have no land at all, that just really grounds you in a sense of you want to protect something for a lifetime to come. Now, the ways you're going to do it, take them to the train station is probably not what we want to talk about here. That will become clear to you if you watch the show, so just keep that in mind. I do not condone any of that at all. But with all seriousness, I think there's some neat messaging. And what I say to people is, like Tractor Supply, we like to think about how do we kind of make make rural living or thinking about living out here more appealing and more aspirational for people, regardless if you shop online with us or you go in our store or if you don't. Because I think in a time when we're trying to figure things out, especially younger people, it's a really nice way to ground who you are. You know, just go outside for a few minutes, right? We experienced that through COVID. And I hope that some of that will stick. So there you go.
We're going to transition a little bit away from the Paramount shows. So you came on board a little over 6 months ago. COVID, about 3 years ago, took place. It seems like things are settled now. What are the top initiatives that you have that you're focused on?
Couple things. Number one is for sure storytelling. So when we talk about, you know, I asked the question, so who's heard of Tractor Supply? Even before coming up here this morning, a few folks had said, oh, Tractor Supply. I love Tractor Supply. I bought my chickens there. My dad goes there. I've got 125 minutes from my house. Unprompted, when somebody, and I wear Tractor stuff, by the way, like a lot more than I ever have at any brand I've ever worked for. I don't know if it's a pride, it's a pride thing, but it's also just people really go, Tractor Supply, I've got Tractor Supply. So I need more people to know that, right? So we have to do more than just driving traffic and a lot of retail things that we do now and promotional things and switch that to that, yes, good. But also our media mix is shifting a bit towards more social, more storytelling content and platforms. So that's one. And I think for sure the other is personalization. As we have all these millions of loyal members of our Neighbors Club program, they're highly engaged, they're spending a lot more money, their retention is crazy high. We need to make that more of a true Neighbors Club, and I need to develop that. So loyalty is a big thing for us, and how do you cultivate loyalty and make it feel more like a community that feels like a brand that says, I love Tractor Supply, and how do we make it more personalized? And what I would say the biggest challenge we have, or I have in all of that, is how do I make all those things connect together? Because many of you know, I've got Adobe for one thing, we've got SAP for this, right? We've got Databricks for that. We have a lot of different partners when I look at our MarTech stack. And so how do I get to market quicker and make these things work together in a really symbiotic way is something that we're grappled with. But we're lucky we have great partners and we have a great IT team, but I'll be honest, it's a challenge.
Well, we see in my world IT and marketing working hand in hand more than ever. Would love to hear more about that kind of relationship that you have at Tractor Supply.
Yeah, walking the show, I don't know how many people went over to NRF the last couple days, but I walked the show with our IT team, at least part of our IT team and our procurement team, which is really fun. And in my past life, I would have kind of said, IT's there to look at things, but they're probably coming at it from a different perspective. The number one question as I sat down with Alaterra, who's our head of IT, is, well, we've got marketing here. I really wanted them to join because I want Kimberly to talk about the things she's trying to accomplish for the brand and help us grow. So let's start with that, and then let's talk about how we're already working if it's an existing partner, or if you're a new partner and you're pitching us and you want our business, which I haven't had that before. So I think it's very much about IT being a support and a partner. And I said, I want to do things differently this year, Al, and he's like, all right, tell me what you want to do. My job is to figure out what that looks like and how to make that happen. Nope, not overly promising, but definitely being more optimistic. I have not had that in a long, long time. I've not had that from procurement in a long, long time. Those of you who know large global organizations with massive procurement arms that just, I say, let's go to market. Personally, this is the software that we want. We're going to go try it. We're going to test it. We're going to beta it. 3 months, we're done. Go. Well, slow that roll. It's probably going to be more like, I don't want to say 3 years, but maybe a little bit longer. And by the time we then do that, it's too late. I mean, you've sort of missed that window of trying something to really learn from it so you can actually adopt it at a time when your customers are looking for something different. So I'm fortunate that that's not the case anymore for me.
You mentioned more and more consumers, curbside pickup, obviously buying more stuff online. That then gives us access to a lot more customer data. I'd love to hear what you're doing in regards to leveraging that customer data to handle this personalization effort that you mentioned and others.
Yeah, I would say for sure the main point that we're trying to make right now is not point, but the main thing we're trying to accomplish is how do we go from what I would call more of a transaction-based mindset around the data that we sit on which is valid and very good. We need that. To then, what does this mean about that customer base, and what does that mean about in terms of what they might be looking for next? And then how do we connect all the content and the storytelling that we want to put out there and the love that people have for this brand to make sure that they can get to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing really easily. And if I just look at what you buy, it doesn't tell a full story necessarily. So we're doing a lot more in terms of research with those customers, asking them, how could we be more helpful? How would you like to see content show up when and where? And we're leveraging and you'll see this over the next few months, leveraging our team members. We've got 50,000 of them. And they are by far one of our most trusted authorities and sources for the brand. They live the lifestyle, right? So they're not just like, hey, I work in the store and I'm going to talk to you about equine feed. It's, I have 7 horses. I've been riding horses since I was 5, and I can absolutely help you get started, regardless of where you're at. So trying to pair that knowledge then back with the data that we're sitting on with what people buy, what they have bought, how frequently, what parts of the store. Obviously, we want to have them shop more parts of the store, and we want to be helpful to them to prompt them to do the next thing. So really focusing on some of those customers that come in once, or maybe twice, and then don't come back again. How do we leverage that data in a different way?
Spinning a little off topic, what are some of the brands that you admire or you look up to, companies that you like to benchmark off of? I'm a big believer that you don't want to benchmark off just your own like. You want to find other brands out there that do things that are neat that you can steal ideas from. I was curious who else is out there for you.
This is more on a personal level, but I really appreciate beauty brands like e.l.f., who are trying to, and I think do a really nice job of making sure that they represent the customer base that they're looking for in totality. They make you feel welcome. I think they make the process easy of whatever you're looking for, finding what's right for you. And it's so individual that, talk about personalization, that's so important when you're trying to make somebody feel a little bit more confident and a little bit more self-assured that they're putting their best selves forward. And I think that's really neat with brands like that. I think Target, as a customer of Target for many years now, I like the way that they make it so easy for me to figure out what I need, when I need it, how do I get it, options, all that good stuff. I did that with a Christmas tree of all things. I bought my Christmas tree at Tractor Supply. They had just been delivered and they did not yet have Christmas tree stands. And because I just moved, I didn't bring my didn't have my old Christmas tree stand. And I thought, oh no, I'll go to Target was right there. So didn't have it. Didn't have it. So then I'm like, oh duh, KG, just look on your app. Hello. Oh, there's one at this other one. So put it online, good, buy it, curbside pickup, got my tree. So I appreciate them. And then REI is the last one I really would say that I have appreciated over the years. Being a co-op member for like probably 2 decades now, I love the way that they make outdoor living, or not outdoor living, but outdoor kind of adventure and experiences. It's all an experience for me, and you feel like you're part of something, even though you don't have to necessarily be an expert, which I think is pretty cool. And the in-store experience is one that I still really appreciate.
Anything else you want to share before we open it up for questions from the audience?
I'm just more curious, and I know we've got probably questions from the audience, but with the landscape of retail changing so much, and customers now trying to figure out what's next, we're kind of coming back to somewhat normal. And I look at my younger people on my team and trying to figure out how to inspire them to think about retail a little bit differently. And it used to be like, well, it looked like this last year, so now we kind of forecast for this coming next year, and it's going to look like that, but maybe bigger, maybe a little bit different. But I'm grappling with that. I'm grappling with to your point about who do you look towards, or who do you look to for inspiration? Where do you look to try to really guide your team and inspire them to think, where could we go next? Just given all the uncertainty that we've now gone through. So that's something I'm grappling with and would love to talk to people about. How are you inspiring your younger people on your team, your Gen Zers in particular, just to think about retail differently.
As a parent of a 14-year-old girl, I can see the parallels. We were talking yesterday about what kind of job she'd want when she grows up, and I mentioned marketing. She's like, well, what does that even mean? And it's such a broad definition, but you think about the different channels that they're on nowadays at younger ages. It's definitely tough for people like us to keep up on.
Yeah, for sure. It makes our jobs as marketers too. It's that balance of no one has an attention span anymore. You're looking down at your phone all the time. You've got so many things on your mind. We're in a state of permanent distraction. I used to say, we're just distracted. We have a short attention span of a goldfish, da, da, da. Now it's more, we're just permanently distracted, and I tell my team this all the time. Don't, the long emails that we're doing, all the things, it's like, stop, just stop. People don't, if you've got 5 other things on your mind, this is probably, it may not be one of them. And if it is, you want it to be really short and punchy and really poignant. What does that mean? It means you need to know who that person is more. What do they care about? Who are they? What's going to really resonate at the core? It's just going to take a little bit more thought. And I love that your daughter's asking that, because my daughter's like, she's at USC in California, majoring in Japanese and English. What are you going to do with that? I'm going to translate her, and another year or so and you're done. She's like, I don't want to work in an office. I don't think I want your, what you do, Mom. That's great, but I don't know. And I wonder what that means for marketing and for talent for marketing going forward. I think it's time for a redefinition of what we do, but more importantly, what we can do. Because if anybody can change people's hearts and minds, right, in the organizations that we are all in, no offense, it's probably not going to be sales. Love you guys, but it's probably not going to be sales. And it may be IT a little bit, for sure, but in finance and strategy, et cetera, I think we have that potential to really build those relationships with customers, not only just customers, but people, in hopefully a way that we put towards good. So that's my reframing of marketing to my daughter, who still doesn't want a career in it, but oh well, I tried.
Mine would love to go to California, so.
Okay, we'll talk.
Mike?
Absolutely. Any questions from the audience? Wonderful. If you wouldn't mind, please telling us your name and where you're from, not geographically unless you want to, but company-wise.
John Frayer.
This is John. Thank you. From out front. Actually, I had a question that has nothing to do with Out of Home, and actually has to do with Yellowstone, because I love Yellowstone. Any insights into what the next stage of that partnership might be with Yellowstone, what you might be doing? So I'm trying to get a clue about what's next on the show. And I noticed you had Lainey Wilson involved in the whole thing, in the music, marketing, brands with music artists. Is that something you guys are pursuing on a larger scale, based upon what you said about letting more people know about the brand?
Yeah, great question. So real quick, if you don't know Lainey Wilson, she's an up-and-coming country music artist that she just won 2 CMA awards. We just announced we're going to be launching this year a new emerging artist program to help her, literally help other country artists to break into the industry. And she's worked for it for 10 years now. Worked really, really hard. She's so grateful for all the help she got, and she would like that very much to be something that she can contribute to others. So that's going to kick off here very shortly. She's now in the cast of Yellowstone, and is amazing and wonderful and so down to earth. And I don't know if you've seen Yellowstone. You may have seen our little TikTok-style kind of commercial that we did with her. It's basically her, doing things around her farm. She grew up on a farm in Louisiana, a town of 300 people. She lives the lifestyle. She loves Tractor Supply. She's been working with us for about the last year now. So it's neat to find people like that, we talk about connecting with younger people and making retail feel a bit different. We didn't even have to tell her, we're Tractor Supply, and this is what we do, and we'd love to work with you, and, do the da-da-da. She's like, girl, I love Tractor Supply, and I'm like... So that's coming in, some other fun stuff, too, how we can make a positive impact together with folks that are involved in the Yellowstone franchise. So that's it for my PSA for Yellowstone.
Hi, I'm Nicole Bored from SAP CX Advisory. Can you talk a little bit about the complexities and strategy around being a brand that has relationships and ownership of different brands, such as PetSense and Orscheln, and how that translates into customer sort of cross-brand purchasing and personalization, loyalty, that sort of thing?
I won't go into the complexity just due to time. We can talk later, which I would love. But one of the things I didn't mention before, I may have mentioned it briefly, but I will say this about the other brands like PetSense that is part of our organization. They have pet food, pet supplies, all kinds of stuff. Very, very small, located in some smaller markets across the country. Orscheln is another, it's a farm and ranch store. We recently acquired some of their stores in the middle of the country. What I would say we're trying to look at is ways that we can leverage what makes Tractor Supply so unique. Not only just who we are, people love it, great team members, but the culture. which I know has very little to do sometimes with technology, but I would argue sometimes it does, because we need to really leverage that to share that more. If people knew more about what the culture and the values and mission and values of Tractor Supply are, they're in everybody's office, they're all over the place. I have never been in an organization where I don't have to remind myself of them, right? When times are not so great and you're like, okay, no, stick to the values and missions, it's all good. Every single day I feel like we talk about them, and it's not because we need to follow them, it's because this is who we are, this is what we believe, work hard, have fun, make money, be good, respect each other, communicate, drive change, go make it happen. And they're the nicest people you could possibly meet, which I'm like, wow, this is cool. So there's again, Tractor Supply, come work for us.
All right, we can do one more quick question. You had your hand up? Yeah, great.
Hey, great job, Ken Harlan from Mobile Fuse. So I'm guilty of never being in a Tractor Supply store. I just checked it out, and I was like, oh, wow, there's actually a lot of cool things. So I'm curious about your 2023 strategy and what you're going to be investing in to try to find, obviously you just mentioned TikTok, right? And that's a younger demographic. Well, I think it is. It is in my house at least. But where are you going to be investing in 2023 to create awareness that you don't have to own a farm to go to a Tractor Supply store?
I would say a broad answer to that would be we're looking at our entire media mix and approaching it not so much from basics like search and social. How do we make sure we cover demand that we see right now? Yes, good. But also exploring a bit. TikTok is one that certainly is continuing to grow, and it's a great storytelling place where you can capture people's attention and a little bit of that emotion that you feel at Tractor Supply with team member content that I mentioned earlier. So we formed that team member content crew to help us create it. But also areas like Pinterest and Reddit and a few others that I think are really great around communities. That's going to be much more relevant for us as we not only cultivate loyalty, but as we bring in new people to the brand, because I want a venue or a channel where I can actually have just a moment of your time to explain or help you see what that looks like. And in some channels, that's just a little harder to do that. Obviously, our own channels too, between email and other things like that. But how do we dial up our storytelling in some of those platforms too? Because I think people, again, know us and love us that are already loyalists, but we could even do more storytelling with them. So I think that's what we're going to focus on for sure.
Thank you.
Wow, well, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, not only excellent insights, but I just can't wait to get into a Tractor Supply again now. Like, that was phenomenal. Thank you. And I really appreciate also, to your point, I know evolution in retail, but this idea of, right, like, there's an evolution of the marketer, right? And also this marketing isn't just always external, and your thought about if you're doing your job properly, you're marketing what the future and change looks like internally as well. So it was really awesome. Thank you. Huge round of applause for these two. That was phenomenal.